Current attempts to help develop Africa by industrial countries are uncoordinated and plainly incremental.
With that, Nigeria's President Muhammadu Buhari, the fifth speaker at this year's United Nations General Assembly, was put on a pedestal as the first African leader to address the 74th Assembly of the Heads of State and Governments. Not far from the UN Secretary General and the United States President Donald Trump. It was definitely a shift from the past where her slot could be on the second or third day of the world event, when most leaders would have presented their addresses and left. And it was a move that did not go unnoticed by the president's team.
It's like it's Nigeria's day in the sun, because you don't have it better than that. The Deputy Secretary General, President of the General Assembly, and then you are President of that country. It's like all focus will be on Nigeria.
Back in Nigeria, Africa remains the center stage of Nigeria's foreign policy. Though interpreted to reflect her domestic policy under its military and civilian administrations. Federal policy was set to be clear-cut under Federal Prime Minister Alhaji Abubakar Tafawa Balewa. Either support the West and be in good and respectable company, or support the communist powers and be in company of the devil. The policy of non-alignment, the declared foundation of Nigerian foreign policy, was nothing more than a facade. But it was also under military regime that she began to assume leading role on the continent and chairmanship of the Organization of African Unity. Wealth realized from the discovery of oil provided an opportunity for her to become benefactor to weak African countries.
The military regime, there was no assembly, no national assembly. Everything was done by fiat. The military head of state or president can say, allocate some amount of money to the Minister of Foreign Affairs to pursue so and so issue. But right now, everything has to go through the democratic process of the National Assembly. And it's not been easy for the Minister of Foreign Affairs to get to grips with many of its functions because of lack of funds.
With the return of democracy in 1999, Nigeria's image abroad was said to have improved. Nigeria was considered a powerhouse in the region in economic and security affairs. But perhaps the greatest tests to Nigeria's foreign policy have come during civilian administrations, with the onset of insurgency not only in the country, but in West Africa. Thankfully, Nigeria continues to lead security cooperation in this regard. The peaceful transition of power from the Jonathan administration to the Buhari administration further boosted the country's standing in the international community. Some scholars believe visits by world leaders and high-profile guests attest to this confidence to maintain relations with Nigeria. And then came one of the worst xenophobic attacks in South Africa, one of the beneficiaries of Nigeria's largesse and support in its anti-apartheid era. Amidst outrage by Nigerians over the attacks on their businesses, the Minister of Foreign Affairs, Mr. Jeffrey Onyema, struggled to become the face behind Nigeria's decisions on the matter, amidst efforts by the legislative and executive to control the situation.
Whatever measure that needs to be taken to ensure the safety of Nigerians in South Africa, we will take.
Nigeria continues to be a champion for the campaign against corruption, while remaining committed to many international organizations and binational commissions.